All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm going to be your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. The X Zone is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here from our studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on Classic 1220 and streamed worldwide on classic1220.ca. Now, if you'd like to send me an email, it's very simple, xzone@classic1220.ca. My first guest tonight, X Zone Nation, is a gentleman I have the pleasure of calling a good friend. His name is Larry Lawson. He is a former police officer, police detective, who has now entered the full-time realm of paranormal investigations after his retirement. Joining me from Vero Beach, Florida, is Larry Lawson. Larry, great having you back here, my friend.
It's great to be here, Rob. Thank you very much for having me.
First of all, congratulations on your new book.
Thank you. Really excited about it.
And the name of the book is Haunted Indian River County. And I'll just let our listeners know what it's about. Indian River County is an idyllic vacation spot on Florida's east coast, not far from Cape Canaveral, known as part of the famed Treasure Coast. Many are unaware of the deep and fascinating history this area played in the development of the Sunshine State. Almost lost among its visitors and residents are the chilling stories of the hauntings that accompany this rich history. It is here where a man named Waldo still looks after his family's properties 6 decades after his death. Wow, talk about a eager worker. Or a retired preacher is seen digging up his hidden treasure days after he died. Now, if you'd like to get your copy of Haunted Indian River County, it's available on Amazon. Larry, for the listeners who may not have had the pleasure of hearing you in the past or listened to your own show at paranormalstakeout.org, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you said, I'm a retired police officer. I spent about 40 years on the job. Got my start in the Dade County Jail in Miami, where actually I had my first paranormal experience. Spent many years as an investigator for the state attorney's office, prosecutor's office, detective, sergeant, patrol officer. Did just about everything, including running. I was the director of the police academy for this region of Florida for a number of years also. During this time is where I really began to decide that I wanted to figure out what this mystery, what this phenomenon was we call the paranormal. So began investigating that about 2010, 2011, right in that area.
Now, Larry, tell us about your book, Haunted Indian River County.
Yeah, it was, I'll tell you, Rob, it was the result of just the stuff that we were working on here.
Mm-hmm.
We began, as I said, investigating. We created a group called the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation after an event my son and I had in St. Augustine, which is just a few hours north of us. And from that, we created a group called the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. We began to investigate. We became connected with the town of Fellsmere, which is in the northwest corner of Indian River County, where Vero Beach is also located. And we began to have just all kinds of experiences there. Our group began to expand and investigate all areas in the county. And then, well, with The book is basically a discussion of the history, the rich history of the Treasure Coast, the legends that are attached to this history, and also a lot of the things that my own group uncovered over the years.
How haunted is the haunted Indian River County, Larry? And what kind of investigations have you and your group conducted there?
Well, it's like anywhere else. And if you look at the theory of what paranormal investigation is, and Rob, I gotta couch everything I say was it is all theory. Nobody knows
Mm.
what this phenomena is. So I want to couch everything with that statement. Um, so we've been investigating here since that time. The types of investigations we do, we do a lot of historical buildings. We do a lot of historical spots, battlefields, things like that. Uh, we don't do a lot of homes. That's not what we're about. We will if the need arises, somebody just absolutely needs some help. But most of our work is done in historical buildings and historical areas and landmarks.
So it would seem that you and your group are more historian orientated than paranormal investigative.
Well, I don't think you can have one without the other,
Okay.
really. But yes, we do focus a lot on the history because let's face it, if you don't have a love for history, if you don't embrace the history, the paranormal doesn't mean anything because if you're investigating
Hmm.
spirits, ghosts, you ain't talking to anybody that's here right now. It's always in the past. So understanding your history opens the door to the others.
Larry, what can you tell me more about the retired preacher who was seen digging up his hidden treasure days after he died?
One of my favorite stories. His name was Thomas New. He was a retired preacher from the Detroit area, actually. Came down here, late in the 19th century. He found out about the San Sebastian or St. Sebastian area, which is in the northern part of Indian River County, just north of Vero. He came down here and he wanted to make this land almost like a paradise. Set up a post office, and because his last name was New and he needed a name for the post office, that's how a lot of towns were named. It became known as New Haven. It had been known prior to that as San Sebastian from the Spanish that had been here centuries before.
Wow.
Um, and but he changed it to New Haven, and he that was about 1893, 1892. And he lasted about a year because after he opened the post office, he got accused of doing some unsavory things. It ranged from selling booze, alcohol out of the post office to getting into other people's mail. Either way, Reverend New got tossed out. Now he still stayed in the area, and I guess, not a whole lot talked about how he was felt after he was kicked out of being the postmaster. I might add, after that, the town was returned back to the name of San Sebastian or Sebastian. But he hung around in the area, and it was around a few years later, um, some boys saw him on an island. Now, I got to back up a little bit to tell you that for years, people in the area were convinced that Reverend New had found some of the treasure from the famed 1715 fleet that sank off our shores. Now, the 1715 fleet was the Spanish treasure fleet that sank, and that's what gave us our name, the Treasure Coast. So people believed that he'd actually found a lot of these treasures, but they could never prove it. He was very secretive. He became very, very secluded. Well, one day around the turn of the century, um, two boys were out clamming on the island. There's a couple different versions of it. Some say they were in a boat, some say they were actually on the Barrier Island, but they were looking at this island in the Indian River, the lagoon, and they saw the pastor out there digging. They got excited. They ran home, told mom and dad, "Hey, we saw Pastor Reverend New out there. He was digging up his treasure. We found him." "No, you didn't." "Yeah, we did. We saw him. We just saw him out there." "No, you didn't." "Mom, Dad, we did." And of course, I'm taking literary license with the
Sure.
conversation, but that's how it went. And finally, the parents said to the boys, "It wasn't him. He's been at the Parks home for the last several days, and he's near death. In fact, he had actually died
Oh my
at that
gosh.
point." So, and that's one of those legends that have passed over the
Hmm.
years. Now the island is known as Preacher's Island. People have looked for years on that island for the treasure, have found nothing. So, were the boys imagining things? One can only speculate.
Hmm. That's a real ghost story if I've ever heard one. And what about Waldo, the man named Waldo, who still looks after his family and property 6 decades after his death? Now this guy's a workaholic.
Well, he was, and he loved Vero Beach. Waldo Sexton actually came to the Vero Beach area from Indiana. He was a graduate of Purdue University, received a degree in animal husbandry or something along those lines. The actual degree escapes me. And but what he was really, really good at, Rob, was as a salesman. The man could literally, if you excuse the old term, sell ice to an Eskimo. And he ended up in Vero Beach because he was working for a farm implement company, and he was selling augers, the big augers the farmers would use to turn dirt.
Yeah.
And he came down here, and he got down here, and he found that the auger was broken. And this was about 1913, 1914. And you couldn't just call up Amazon and have it delivered by drone the next day. So he had to literally teletype back up to Indiana and have another auger sent down via the train. While he waited the weeks, he stayed in the only hotel in town, the Sleepy-Eyed Lodge, fell in love with a girl named Elsbeth, fell in love with Vero Beach, decided he never wanted to stay, quit his job, got licenses to sell citrus and cattle and real estate, the whole 9 yards. And what Waldo became was the guy that put the growing new town of Vero, and then later Vero Beach, on the map. And he built buildings, he built churches, he built restaurants. He's best known for building the Driftwood Inn, which originally started out as his family's beach house, and he turned it into a resort. And I can only speculate, but I'm going to guess it's because he realized he could make some money doing it. But his love for Vero stayed, and he helped this town grow. He built a place called the McKee Botanical Jungle Garden back in the day with another guy named Arthur McKee. And that place became interesting because Johnny Weissmuller filmed 2 of his old Tarzan movies in there.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
So this is just a guy that continued to build in this town. His family is still here. They're an important part of our community. And Waldo's really what put us on the map, the things that he built, the things that he did. Very gregarious, outgoing guy. And when he died in 1967, it left a big hole in the town, and it's still felt. So this is a guy that has just stayed. Now, how do we know he's still?
We're going to have a bit of a cliffhanger here, Larry, because
Ooh.
I have to take my first break. Please stand by.
No
Exo Nation,
problem.
our guest this hour is Larry Lawson. He is the host of Paranormal Stakeout on the Exxon Broadcast Network. You can visit their website at www.paranormalstakeout.org. And he's also the author of a brand new book that's out. And knowing Larry all these years, it's going to be a great success. The name of the book is Haunted Indian River County. It's available on Amazon. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the Exxon. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is Larry Lawson, a retired police officer, now paranormal investigator, and brand new author. The name of his new book is entitled Haunted Indian River County, and it's available on Amazon. And if you'd like to listen to some of Larry's great shows, they're available at www.paranormalstakeout.org. All right, so let's get back to that cliffhanger, buddy.
Okay, back to Waldo.
Hey, before we get that, is that where the game Where's Waldo comes from?
If I had a nickel, Rob, for every time I heard that one, I wouldn't need to write a book or do anything else. I'd be rich.
Really? Okay.
But no, it's nothing related to Where's Waldo.
Okay.
So, anyway.
I couldn't help that. I'm sorry.
Waldo as I said, passed in 1967.
Uh-huh.
They had a day here in Vero Beach for him. It was in 1958. They called it Waldo Sexton Day. They named Sexton's Plaza after him, which was an area he built for people to come over from the mainland and just hang out on the beach. He built Waldo's Mountain, which it has a whole another set of interesting stories. As I said, he built the driftwood, and he's still being seen in a number of these places. He loves to hang out at the Driftwood Inn, or the Driftwood Resort rather, which, as I mentioned before the break, started off as his family's beach house, but then it grew into a resort, and now it's basically what most people know Waldo for. But his estate, which still stands off of 12th Street between 43rd Avenue and 58th Avenue here in Vero Beach, it's now a wedding venue. His home is still there. Um, he's been seen there by family members. He's been seen in the Ocean Grill restaurant, which he built began life as a hot dog stand in what is now Sexton's Plaza. He likes to hang out there. So he keeps an eye on a lot of things here in Vero Beach, and he doesn't mind letting folks know he's still around.
And Exo Nation, if you've never been down to St. Sebastian, Fellsmere, or Vero, or anywhere down that part of Florida, they are the nicest people. You'll have a great time. I guarantee you. Plus, you'll be able to take Larry's haunted tour.
Yes, yeah.
And you know how I just squeezed that through there, Larry?
That was good. Not bad at all. So
Okay.
come on down, folks. Would love to take you on a tour, because the tours aren't just, they're not meant to scare. They're meant to inform folks about once again, the rich history of this area, and share with you the legends and what my own crew has uncovered over the years. So
Where, in your opinion, Larry, is the most haunted place that you and your crew have ever gone?
ever gone. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I gotta say, Rob, the old school in Fellsmere, which is that little town in the northwest part of the county, that place has produced things we cannot explain. The Marsh Landing restaurant, the old school, Waldo's Homestead has also produced some very, very interesting pieces of evidence that we're still trying to figure out some of it. So if I had to pick the two most haunted spots in the area, I gotta say it's a toss-up between Fellsmere as a whole and the Sexton Homestead on 12th Street here in Vero.
You had to mention that restaurant, didn't you?
Yes,
They have the best food.
it's a typical that building that it's in was actually the Fellsmere Land Corporation. Fellsmere, when during the third Florida land boom in the early 20s, they built this as the headquarters for the company, but it went belly up in a couple of years because the economy went bad. And then it became a bunch of other things, which included City Hall and the police station for a while. And then in about 1999, Fran Adams, who was one of our city county commissioners, bought it and turned it into the Marsh Landing restaurant, and saved the building, because otherwise it would have been destroyed, and that would have been a crying shame because it's a piece of history. And they sell great food. They have great food there, and it's all old Florida. And you get to talk to some people in the past on occasion.
Larry, do you and your team still go to the Marsh Landing?
Oh yeah, yeah. We go out there if we have some of our meetings there. We'll be doing a release day book signing at the Marsh, because it's such a linchpin for all that we've done in the area on March 25th, when the physical copy of the book is released. So yeah, we're still out there quite a bit and still have a great relationship with the folks out there.
Exo Nation, my guest this hour is Larry Lawson, and he is the author of a new book that's coming out in March entitled Haunted Indian River County. And Larry's website is www.paranormalstakeout.org. That is for his radio TV show. Larry, what is the website for your team?
You can check out our website at IndianRiverHauntings.com or ParanormalFBI.com. Will get you to the same spot, and you can also find us on Facebook at Indian River Hauntings, which is the part of our organization that we do the tours and things. So you can find that on Facebook, and Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation also on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel that's located at the @ Indian River Hauntings 2341.
When you go out on your tours,
Hmm.
how many people would you say go there with the preconceived idea that they're going to see something or hear something that in their own mind they can they can say, oh, okay, I heard something or seen something, it's got to be paranormal?
It's interesting. I get half folks are paranormal enthusiasts that
Hmm.
are hoping to see something. Some folks just want to hear the history. Some folks are being dragged there because their wife wanted to go and made him come along. So I get an interesting mix of all of them. But what I really try to do is give folks a flavor of what the area is. See, folks look at Florida. People look at Florida as sunny beaches, citrus fruit, Disney World. They don't realize the deep, deep history of this place. We're a fairly new state. I mean, we didn't even become a state till 1845, almost 100 years after, the Declaration of Independence, 80 years anyway. And the things that happened here really helped shape the entire country. The Spaniards were here in the 1500s, for example, and they themselves brought a lot of culture to the state of Florida, or what is now the state of Florida. Um, so that's what I try to relate to folks. Now, along with that, we talk about the legends, such as the Forever New on Preacher's Island, Waldo Sexton showing up at the resort on occasion. And like I said, some of the stuff our own team has found at places. So we try to make it a good mixture. And what we end up many times getting are folks saying, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. And that makes sense. My biggest thrill is when I get somebody that is local. They have grown up here.
Hmm.
Their families from here. And after the tour, they said, I never knew that.
Wow.
That's when I feel like I've succeeded.
So how long does your tour usually take, Larry? If somebody was to drive down on their way to Miami Beach and they've heard our interview tonight and they check
Mhm.
on their Google and they say, oh, geez, going down 90 is not far from there. So whoop, off they go and check with you online to see if there's any openings. They get out to the
Mhm.
tour. And how long does it take?
It usually takes about sometimes 2.5 hours. A lot depends on the group, because I'll get some folks that just want to get in and get out, and I get some folks that just have lots and lots of questions. They'll ask everything from questions about the history of the county, and then they may want to discuss their thoughts on what this topic of the paranormal is. So, and we'll bring some of the stuff that we use on our investigations, and show them how to use it, and show them how it works and what it really means. So it takes about anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours, we'll say.
So we
And
need, I'm
we
sorry.
do it privately too. So I mean, even if it's not scheduled, we'll still make arrangements for folks just coming through. So we do that a lot.
Larry, how would you explain the paranormal to someone who has no idea what it is, or they have a vague idea but they're not sure?
Well, the first thing I'd ask them is, what is their impression of it? What do they feel it is? And then I get a whole myriad of answers. I mean, anything from it's in their head to it's the energy from those that went before. And my answer would be, it could be any of it. We don't know. One of the mantras, and you've heard me say this a million times, we don't know what this phenomenon is. We do not know what causes it. The only thing I can tell you, as if I'm talking to the audience, is we don't have the answers yet, but for generations, thousands of years, people from every socioeconomic level, every culture have experienced something.
Hmm.
Everybody cannot be crazy. There's got to be something to it. So what is the answers to what it is? That's what we're trying to find out. Is it is it the essence of those that passed before us coming back? Is it that issue with dimensions that is part of Einstein's general theory of relativity, and those dimensions that sit right next to each other may be crossing over? Is it our own? Is it the power of our own brain? Because we don't really understand the depth of our own brain yet. We don't understand everything that it can do. Uh, and so that's how I explain it. You've got to make up your mind what you think it is, but more importantly, you need to, if you really want to explore, you've got to research. You've got to do things to try and find the answers.
How close,
Well,
in your opinion, are we to finding those answers, Larry?
not in my lifetime. At this point, I don't know. I don't think we're much farther along than we were 15, 20 years ago. I do think that it is not quite the taboo subject it was.
Hmm.
For example, when I first got into law enforcement, and Rob, is cops and firefighters, paramedics, ER docs and nurses, so many of us have experienced things. But back in the old days, you didn't dare discuss it.
No.
Because if I had said something, my lieutenant would have sent me to a psych exam, fit for duty exam. But in the last 20 years, it's become more socially acceptable, for lack of a better word,
Okay.
and people now talk about it a whole lot more. Um, I think I'm kind of beating around the bush to your question.
All right. I'm going to
Yes,
give you a couple of minutes to think of the answer. Exo
right.
Nation, Larry Lawson, my good friend, is with us tonight. Larry is the host of Paranormal Stakeout on the Exxon Broadcast Network. You can visit his website at paranormalstakeout.org. And he's also the author of a new book that is going to be released in March, Haunted Indian River County. What gives Larry credibility when it comes to investigating the paranormal, exonation, is he is a former police detective. He knows what he sees, he knows what he hears, and you know what? He knows how to handle the evidence that they find, which in my opinion is one of the most important parts. So Larry and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca.
Bad boys, what you want, what you gonna do when Sherry John Brown come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do? Yeah, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Larry Lawson is with me, a former retired police officer in Florida. He is now, well, he has been for the past number of years, investigating the paranormal. I can't put it any other way, but like I was saying, what gives Larry credibility over a lot, and I mean a lot, of paranormal so-called investigators, is that he was a law enforcement investigator. He didn't sit in an armchair, look at the internet, and say, "Oh, I'm a researcher." Yeah, I know what to do. Yeah, He did it. He paid his dues. And if you'd like to find out more about Larry, he has a great radio show on the X Zone Broadcast Network at www.paranormalstate.org, where all his archive shows are. And you know what? He doesn't charge anybody for it, which I commend him for as well. The name of his book, Haunted Indian River County, and it will be available on Amazon this coming March of 2024. All right, Larry, I gave you time. What's the answer?
Crush me with the question.
Oh, come on. Am I that easy to forget?
Humor me.
Huh?
Humor me. Give me the question again.
You know, I could go so many ways with that. So many ways. I think what I asked you, and here I'm backpedaling. What is your explanation of the paranormal?
We don't know what it is. That there's something out there that has been cropping up, as I said earlier, in every socioeconomic level, every culture, every people's, everything, for generations, for thousands of years. So it's got to be something, whether it's those that have passed before us coming back to visit with us, the essence, their energy, whether it's dimensions, whether it's the power of our own brain, we don't know, but it's something. And searching for that answer, that's kind of what myself and my team's about, searching for that answer. We don't know what it is yet. And I tell everybody, Rob, if anybody says to you they know exactly what it is, they're lying to you or themselves or a little bit of both, because nobody knows what this phenomenon is yet.
There's a lot of people who are now talking about ghosts being interdimensional. What is your take on that, Larry?
When I first heard, I'm still not sure.
Okay.
The bottom line is, when I first heard it, I really thought it was some folks just trying to rebrand themselves because their old shtick just wasn't working anymore. And I'm still not sure that's not the case. However, I think there's some argument when you hear some of the scientists talk about things involving quantum mechanics and Einstein's theories of dimensions, and the fact that I'm trying to keep an open mind because we don't know what it is. I think I'm a little more open to hearing evidence of it than I was 10 years ago.
Larry, during your investigations, has your team ever seen the ghost of an animal or heard stories about ghosts of animals?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I'd ever heard about that was my mom had told me this story. Her and my sister were staying at a place called the Buxton Inn in Ohio, and there's a story there about a cat, a ghost cat, and apparently my sister experienced that. It was my sister actually experienced it, and my mom saw it on a windowsill. Now, could this be because it was suggested before? I don't know. I know my sister's an incredibly sharp woman. I would be shocked personally if just the suggestion would have caused that with her. So I've got to take it with some rational thought.
Right.
I believe her is my point. So our team here, there's a place called the Pareidolia Brewery. It's a gentleman named Pete Anderson owns it in Sebastian. There's supposedly a cat in there, and my guys did hear a bell, like bell that you'd find on a cat's collar.
Right.
They heard it, but couldn't find a cat. Whether or not that was a cat, I don't know, but they did hear it, and I trust those people with my life. Every member of my team are quality individuals, so and not prone to getting overly excited and things. So yes, we've heard about that, and there's been legends of ghost animals.
Yeah, I guess the headless horseman on his horse.
There's a good example.
Yeah.
Here's a great one. A little bit of history.
Okay.
There was a famous World War II event called the Dam Buster Raid.
Oh yes. I remember that.
Okay. They destroyed a huge power dam that provided electricity in the Ruhr Valley.
Right.
619 Squadron flew it. They flew a specially modified an aircraft called a Lancaster. Well, the guy that flew that, commanded that mission, was a guy named Guy Gibson. And to this day, at the base where they flew out of, his dog, his black Labrador, is supposedly still seen.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, there's all kinds of stories of stuff like that happening. And there's some people believe that animals have souls just like we do, spirits just like we do, and they come and go.
I believe that 100%, because as you know, we lost our two little fur babies. We lost Maddie and we lost Nikita. And I swear sometimes I can feel Nikita in the room, or I will look at a certain spot and I don't see anything, but I really believe she's there. And Lola, our last little fur baby, will look at the exact same spot where I'm watching. As if, all right, we know Nikita's here. That's great. Speaking about, oh my gosh. I had a gentleman on last week, Rick McCallum, He's a former stunt double for Chuck Norris. He also did work with Clint Eastwood, and he also did work with Leslie Nielsen during the 33 and a Third Gun series. He is now doing ghost tours of Hollywood, and one of the main places that he goes is the LAPD museum that is haunted.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and I said, well, why is it so haunted, Rick? He said, well, that's where all the evidence has been placed after the court has adjudicated the case.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow. It's just amazing the stories that are out there. And with so many stories, with so many credible people, I find it hard to believe that people actually doubt that there's something to this.
Well, that's because there's no definitive proof yet, Rob, and that is the quest that many of us are on, not just going out to get the thrill of the bump in the night, but actually to find the evidence. And you're talking about LAPD, if that's where they're putting the evidence, there's a thing we like to call attachments. Is there energy attached to this stuff that we don't yet understand? Well, Jack Webb is supposed to also haunt the museum, I understand. Or
really?
The Old Academy, I understand.
Dum da dum dum. Dum da dum dum dum. Okay. Oh, shoot! I was just going to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. I know that sounds impossible, but anyway.
You're getting as bad as me.
Who is this again? No, but Larry, we were talking about animals, and I can understand animals because they have what I believe to be a soul, a spirit, just like humans do. But when it comes to, I've heard stories here in Niagara where they see soldiers from the War of 1812 in full dress uniform with rifles. There are stories about animals pulling carriages with ghosts in them. So, all right, the people I can understand, but what about the material objects? The rifle, for the soldier, the carriage itself from the people who see the carriage. How does that materialize?
Wow, if I had that answer, once again, I would be sitting on an island all by myself owning it because I would be the richest man in the world. We don't have that answer yet. I don't know. Gettysburg, this is the same way.
Oh, yeah. You were talking to...
the stories of Gettysburg.
Who were you talking to a couple of weeks ago on your show?
Mark Nesbitt.
Mark Nesbitt. That was a great show.
Yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit. He's quite a guy.
I can't believe something so haunted like Gettysburg that they were saying that they could smell the sulfur from the gunfire. The apparitions that are seen. It's just like, wow, and still people deny it. They deny that the paranormal is real. And this is where I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, and I'm going to suffer for this later on, Larry. But there are billions of people in the world who believe everything that is in the Bible, and they haven't seen any proof of it.
And that's an excellent point. It's stepping out on faith, and in some ways, that's what's happening here. And do not misunderstand me. I'm not equating the Bible to paranormal investigation, please. But people have to take a lot of it on faith. And it's also because of what they've experienced. Now, people have experienced miracles.
Yes.
They've experienced God actually touching their lives.
Yep.
Now, can they prove it? Maybe because something happened. Maybe they were miraculously cured from a disease. So that could be tangible. But many times people have things that happen to them that they know is somehow divinely inspired.
Right.
But they can't prove it. And once again, I want to couch this by saying I am not comparing paranormal investigations to this, but the concept is somewhat the same. As the best way for me to put it is people have experiences. They know what they've seen, but they can't prove it. There's no picture of it. There's no recording of it. Now, you mentioned seeing the War of 1812 soldiers, and I talked about Gettysburg. How is that happening? That's an interesting debate in the paranormal field right now because oftentimes it's considered to be what we call a residual or non-sentient experience. In other words, is it energy that's being just played back on a tape and it just plays?
Right.
And if that's the case, is there some way, take quartz, for example. Quartz is known to harness or hold on to energy. is something holding onto this energy, this, for lack of a better term, this old videotape of an event that happened. Maybe there's a lot of emotion, maybe there's a lot of anger, fear, sadness, whatever, and it's somehow trapped in some sort of material, and something triggers it, and it plays back real quick.
Larry, I've got to take
But
my
then-
break. Please stand
Oh.
by. Exo Nation, Larry Lawson is our special guest. Paranormal Stakeout.org is his website for the radio and TV show. And Larry and I will be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed worldwide on classic1220.ca.
Come for you when you were 8 and you had bad traits. You go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X. I'm Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streaming classic1220.ca. And of course, that was the TV theme for Get Smart. Don Adams did a fantastic job on that. And by the way, he was also the voice behind Tennessee Tuxedo. A little bit of trivia there. I used to love it when he used to take off his shoe to make a telephone call. I guess that was the first. Well, we have handheld phones, and he was the foothold phone.
Yeah. Well, I personally like the cone of silence. That was my favorite.
That was TV isn't the same way as it used to be, Larry.
No, it's not.
I-
But we're old farts. Can I say that?
Well, you just did. So thank you very much. There goes a fine to the CRTC. No, it's true. I remember sitting down with my kids when they were growing up on Saturday morning with cereal and watching all the different funnies, Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner, Woody Woodpecker. And I tried to watch TV a couple of weeks ago with one of my grandchildren, and it was like, you watch this? Hey, Papa, shh. Okay. We'll see if Santa Claus is nice to you next year, kid. But keeping into the vein of media, and what's on TV, is there, in your opinion, a difference between a paranormal seeker and a paranormal thrill seeker?
Oh, that's a great way to. I use the term paranormal thrill seeker quite frequently, and a paranormal seeker is probably a great way to describe the other. And I think where you're going with this is the difference between somebody going out for the thrill of the moment,
Yes.
as compared to somebody trying to solve this mystery. And yes, there is a difference, but I really hasten to add there's a place for both. Would you jump out of an airplane, Rob?
If I had a parachute, sure.
I wouldn't. You can, unless it's going down. I am not jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
Well,
To me, but why
I-
do people do it?
well, because it's a thrill, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree. I agree with that. Mind you, did you realize that a landing is a controllable crash?
Oh, I've heard that one many
Oh, yeah.
times. Yep. But what my point is, people do things for the thrill, and that's okay. A lot of things have been discovered. A lot of things good has happened out of people doing things for the thrill of it. And I have no problem with folks that want to go out and hear the bump in the night,
Yeah.
as long as they understand that's what they're doing. Okay, they're not purporting to be researchers and investigators.
You know
if
what?
that makes sense.
You know what gets my crow? When I hear
What?
these people call themselves paranormal investigators. And I say, well, where did you learn how to be an investigator? Well, I read a couple of books, and I was on the internet. So what do you know about handling the evidence you find? I take pictures of them, and and it's like, listen, if you want to become an investigator, take a course or learn from an established investigator like my good buddy over here, Larry Lawson. Larry, I think a lot of people are starting to look at the paranormal groups or teams or whatever they want to call themselves. Not like yours, because I know you and your team are legitimate. But there's a lot of weirdos out there. You know, and
Well, and there's also a lot of folks that are good-hearted about it. They're trying to do. They think they're doing the right thing. But the biggest problem we have, and this is my opinion only, and there's many folks that disagree with me, the biggest problem we have is we have no standardization. We have there's no training program to get folks ready. I've got an advantage. I'm a detective by trade. That's what I did. To interview somebody, to collect the evidence, to store the evidence, to examine the evidence. That's just part of my training. A lot of folks don't have that. They don't understand what it means to collect the evidence. Many teams go out there and they snap pictures. They listen to EVPs, and they hear something and wow, we got this, and then they erase it and go next week to the next one. You've had fun, and okay, that's great, but you haven't done anything with that evidence. You haven't preserved it. You haven't compared it with anything else. There was and you have to forgive me, I can't remember the name of it now. It was a Panasonic recorder that came out in the 90s, and it suddenly became the rage. Oh, forgive me, folks out there, because most of you can remember what it is. It went out of my head. But they were getting legitimate EVPs.
It's called a senior moment, people. A senior's moment. Yeah.
But it worked fairly well. I've actually heard some incredible EVPs come out of it. But here's the problem, Rob. You've got no way to take what's on that recorder and put it into some place to store it and save it and preserve it. You can't plug it into a computer. The only thing you can do is hold up another recorder to it and play it into the other recorder, which deletes a lot of the quality.
Wow.
But so therefore it's useless as a piece of evidentiary collecting equipment.
So what is your preference? Is it digital or analog?
I've had luck with both. I don't think we've figured out why exactly it occurs yet. So I haven't had a problem with either. I mostly use digital. That's just the most convenient thing to use today. I don't think there's been any definitive proof that one is better than the other at this point.
Right.
And that goes back to another issue that we need to develop more equipment and more scientific approaches to collecting the evidence.
Well, once
better at it.
Once the evidence is collected, is the evidence shared with other organizations or teams?
I think that's getting better. I've talked to some folks on my show as well as other teams, and most folks are getting much more interested in sharing. How they share differs, but they're more interested in sharing than they used to be.
I equate the sharing of the information to when I was a police officer, and if you ran a crime, or let's say, for example, a suspect. You'd run the suspect through the computers down there. I believe yours is NCIC?
NCIC and FCIC for Florida, but yeah.
Okay, and up here in Canada, it's CPIC. In Quebec, it's a different group. But anyway, the information is exchanged, and through the exchange of the information, the case can be built and the arrest can be made if all the evidence is there, and the evidence is shared online between agencies. And why this isn't more used within the field of the paranormal, whether it's UFOs, Sasquatch, lake monsters, or ghosts, it just baffles my mind.
In my opinion, it's lack of training and understanding what it means to share information. And back in the old days, cops were like that too. It wasn't really until the 80s that really began to change, and folks started to share that information a whole lot more. One of the ways I like to describe it is if you've got a homicide up in St. Catharines, and we have a homicide here in Vero Beach, there's going to be some differences in laws. The Queen's Law, for example, in Canada is not applicable in Florida, and vice versa.
Excuse me. Now it's the King's Law.
I'm sorry. Forgive my insolence there.
It's all right. I'll tell Donald Trump that you said that. I couldn't help that one.
Sorry. But my point being is, even though there's some differences in procedures and laws, essentially the detectives in St. Catharines are going to investigate that homicide.
Yes. Just
about the same way we do in Vero.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to start getting, in my opinion, in the paranormal field, because that is the only way we're going to be able to share the evidence. Let's say you have a paranormal event up in St. Catharines. If there's no way to share that information, I have something similar happen down here, how the heck am I ever going to know about it?
That's right.
And a lot of that's going to come from training and standardization. I do not suggest everybody has to investigate the same. That's not what I mean.
Right.
I am not saying that I have the only answers for it, because I don't.
Well, look at MUFON. MUFON has a database. They have field guide investigator lessons. They have guidelines. They have procedures, and it's, they're doing a great job about sharing the information with the public, as well as their investigators feed each other the information. So if it's working with the UFO scenario, come on, ghost hunters, get with the times.
Well, I think it's getting that. I think it's getting better, Rob. Like I said, I preach this gospel often, and I'm hearing more and more groups saying the same thing and agreeing. We just got to figure out how to do it. And I think the difference between us and MUFON is maybe not the only centerpiece for the UFO investigative world, but it's probably the best known. There's nothing like that on the ghost side of it, for lack of a better term. There's nothing yet. And whether it's ego, whether it's, I'm not going to share mine with you, whatever it is, we've got to get to a point where there is some sort of centralized body that at least can offer training, offer suggestions. And, if you find something that's working, maybe take it through this organization and get that word out to other groups. Because another thing I've noticed too is most people mean well. There's the negatives out there, but most groups in a sense mean well. And if you show them a better way to do it, many times they'll listen, but there's no way to share it.
Couldn't somebody do a blog or an online database just like MUFON does? The technology is available. Why isn't it being done?
Not sure. There's people have tried it. I even tried it myself and just couldn't get enough folks interested in doing it.
Hey, Larry, the time has come where I must say so long to you for now, my friend.
Wow.
But listen, I'd love to have you back on in the very near future, because I wanted to talk to you about how artificial intelligence is going to affect the paranormal investigative scene and some other topics. So, Larry, I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight. And X Zone Nation, if you'd like to listen to Larry Lawson's radio show, Paranormal Stakeout, it's available at paranormalstakeout.org. And again, my thanks. And don't forget Larry's new book, Haunted Indian River County. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue with Hour 2 here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.